Hey everyone, ready to dive into something that might just change how you grocery shop?
I think this is a big one.
Yeah. California is getting rid of sell-by dates on food labels.
Huge change.
It's pretty big. It's definitely making people wonder what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of questions out there.
So this is all going into effect July 1st, 2026. So think about being in the grocery store.
Not that far away.
No, not that far away. Instead of sell-by, you'll see best if used by.
Right, or use by if it's something where safety is more important, like certain foods.
And this is all to combat a big problem. Food waste. Get this, a whole 7% of food waste in the U.S. is because labels are confusing.
Crazy.
I'm sure we've all done it, thrown stuff out because of that date.
Probably, yeah.
But if sell-by was meant for stores, why even put it on what we buy?
Well, you see, it was originally to help stores manage what they have in stock.
Okay.
But over time, people thought of it like an expiration date.
Gotcha.
And that's why good food gets tossed.
So this new system is trying to clear things up.
Hopefully.
But is it really that simple? Will people actually understand best if used by versus used by?
That's a good question.
Could it be even more confusing?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, some critics are worried shoppers are losing a key part of knowing if food is fresh.
Right.
Even though we got sell-by wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
It's tough to change habits.
And there's this whole other side of this. The politics.
Oh, yeah.
This bill, AB 660, passed totally along party lines.
Interesting.
All Democrats voting for it, all Republicans against it.
It does make you think there's more going on.
There's got to be more to this.
Yeah, there might be some deeper concerns, maybe consequences that no one's really talking about.
So we've got food waste, confused shoppers, and politics.
This is shaping up to be a deep dive for sure.
It is. Before we keep going, though,
Sure.
let's go back and see how sell-by even started.
Good idea.
Where did it come from? So sell-by first showed up back in the 1930s.
Wow.
Yeah, for dairy.
And then in the 70s, it spread to other foods because people wanted to know more about what they were buying.
So are we like going back in time by getting rid of them?
Kind of.
Yeah. Could that mean shoppers won't know as much?
It's possible.
Yeah.
Like milk will still have sell-by dates for stores, but shoppers won't see them.
So stores know, but we don't.
Yeah, it shows how there might be a disconnect between what they know and what we know.
And will all food companies even use these new labels?
Good question.
What if some use the old and some use the new?
Oh, that'd be even more confusing.
Right. Total headache.
For sure.
So are there any foods that don't have to follow these new rules?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Infant formula is one,
Mm-hmm.
and regular eggs.
Yeah.
And pasteurized in-shell eggs, too.
Huh. If it's good to get rid of sell-by, why not for those too?
Well, it makes you wonder why they're different, right?
Yeah. Are those foods more risky or something?
Could be. Or maybe it's because of, pressure from those industries.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe there's some behind-the-scenes stuff going on.
So we're seeing some inconsistencies then.
Seems like it.
But we all want to make good choices when we shop right.
Of course.
So who really benefits from this?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
Food companies and stores, they'll probably have things easier, maybe less risk too.
Okay.
But for us shoppers, not so clear.
So are we like the experiment? Are we taking a risk without those sell-by dates? What could go wrong?
I wouldn't say it's a gamble, but we do have to change how we think about how fresh food is.
Right.
No sell-by to help.
Mm.
We might have to go back to using our senses more.
Like looking at it, smelling it.
Exactly.
But what about the risk of doing that? Could more people get sick from food?
That's definitely a worry.
Yeah.
Someone might get it wrong and eat something bad.
Right.
Let's see what happens.
It sounds like a lot is riding on this change, and we won't know for sure until 2026.
True.
This is something to watch for sure.
Definitely.
But is there anything listeners can do, and now W, to get ready?
Definitely. If you're in California, you can contact your representatives and tell them what you think.
Good idea.
Let them know what worries you.
Okay.
Ask them how they're going to make this change go smoothly.
And even if you're not in California, this is still important, right?
Absolutely. California often starts trends that spread everywhere.
So this could be a preview for everyone else.
Exactly. It's a chance to learn from what happens in California and maybe start pushing for similar changes where you live.
Okay, so we've talked about the history, why they're doing it, and some things that might go wrong.
Yep.
But can this actually help with food waste? And how?
I mean, that's what we're hoping for, right? Less food waste is good for everyone.
For sure. Less in landfills, and we use less stuff making food that just gets thrown away.
Right. Good for the planet and our wallets.
Exactly. It's like that whole idea of using things better, not just throwing them away.
The circular economy, yeah.
Yeah.
So this labeling could be good, but are there things we need to watch out for?
You're right. How do we make sure this actually works?
Well, there are a few key things. We need to tell people what's going on.
Okay.
People need to understand these new labels so they can make good choices.
So like a big campaign to tell everyone, like when we all switched to those LED light bulbs?
Yeah, exactly. Remember how confusing that was?
Oh, yeah.
People didn't like it at first, but they taught everyone about it and gave reasons to switch.
Right.
We need that here, too, so people use these labels and don't ignore them.
Okay, so teach everyone. What else?
Everyone needs to be on board, not just shoppers.
Oh, okay.
Food companies and stores.
Mm.
Got to use the new labels the same way.
So no more like one store with the old label and one with the new.
Right, that would be a mess.
Yeah.
Everyone on the same page. That's key.
Okay, got it.
And we got to talk about safety, too.
Right.
If people get sick from eating old food, this whole thing will backfire.
That's true. People who work in public health need to be ready to explain how to check if food's okay without just looking at the date.
Exactly. You got to keep an eye on things and make sure everyone's safe.
So we need to tell people everyone needs to work together and be careful about safety.
Exactly. It's a tough problem and there's no easy fix. But if California can do it, other places might follow.
It could change things everywhere then.
Yeah, it could really help with all this food waste.
This isn't just about throwing less food away though, right?
No, it's not.
It makes you think about how people shop, how honest food companies are, and even what the government should be doing.
Yeah, it really does. One little change to a label, and it affects all these parts of our lives.
It shows how even small things can have a big impact.
That's for sure.
So for you listening, what does this all mean? Well, you got to stay informed.
Absolutely.
Talk to your representatives and think about what you do when you buy food.
And this is just the beginning. We'll keep you updated as things change.
Now, before we finish up, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
So we're moving away from those dates, and we're supposed to use our senses more, right?
Right.
But we're used to having everything easy and clear. Are we actually willing to learn how to judge food again?
That's a big question. It's about taking care of ourselves and how we think about the food we eat.
It's something to think about as these new labels come in. It shows how change can be good.
I like that.
Not just in our kitchens, but how we all deal with food.
Yeah, good change. I like that.
And one really cool thing about getting rid of sell-by,
What's that?
it makes us use our senses again.
We've kind of forgot about that, haven't we?
We have. For a long time, people didn't have these labels.
Nope.
They had to use their senses to know if food was safe.
They looked at it, smelled it, even tasted a little bit sometimes.
Wow.
They knew what to look for. I bet our grandparents would be surprised by how much we rely on labels now.
You know, my grandma always smelled the milk before giving me any.
Really?
I thought it was just her thing, but maybe she knew what she was doing.
Maybe she did. There's a lot to be said for that old way of doing things.
Yeah, we're so used to looking at labels that we've forgotten how to tell if food's good just by looking at it.
We have. But isn't it kind of risky to go back to that?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
What about people getting sick? Maybe it's safer to just stick with the labels.
Maybe.
It's about finding a balance. We can't just forget everything about food safety.
Right.
But maybe this change reminds us that those dates are just one way to check.
Okay.
They shouldn't be the only thing we use.
So we got to learn more and be more careful about what we buy.
Yeah, it's about being a smart shopper, knowing what to look for and when to ask for help.
So not just blindly trusting a label.
Right. We got to understand how it all works, make our own decisions, and know when to ask if we're not sure.
So it's about knowing more about our food and making choices that are good for us and the planet.
That's it. It's about taking charge of what we eat and knowing that what we choose matters.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Me too.
I've learned so much about labels, waste, and how what we do affects things.
It's complicated stuff.
It is. It's a lot to take in. So for our listeners, what are the key things to remember?
First, don't worry. This is going to take time.
Okay, that's good.
You have time to learn the new system.
I was getting nervous about my next shopping trip.
And you don't have to figure this out alone. There's tons of info out there.
Okay.
Learn what those new terms mean.
Like best diffused by and all that?
Exactly. Look online. There are groups that can help you too.
Okay.
And like we said, we'll keep you updated as things change.
Okay, great.
But what about actually using this stuff? What can people do in their kitchens?
Yeah, good question.
Remember those senses we talked about? Don't be afraid to smell that milk or look at those strawberries.
Yeah.
Your senses can tell you a lot about if food is fresh.
So trust our gut, literally.
Exactly. But what if we're wrong? What if we throw away good food or get sick because we weren't careful enough?
Yeah, that's what worries me.
It's about finding that balance. Remember, if you're not sure, just ask.
Okay.
Call the company or the store. They'll help you out.
Okay, good to know.
It's not about doing it all by yourself. It's about knowing more so you can choose better.
So it's not just about the label, it's about being a smart shopper.
Exactly. Understand how it works, make your own choices, and know when to ask for help.
Yeah, it really makes you think differently about how we buy food.
It does. It's like taking back control, being smarter about what we eat.
And it's funny what we're talking about now, using our senses and all.
Yeah.
It's how people used to eat all the time.
It's true. We've gotten so used to all these easy ways of doing things, we've forgotten the basics.
But like you said, we can't just throw out all the new stuff or forget about safety.
Right. It's about finding that middle ground, using both the new and the old ways.
So as we finish up this deep dive, what's the one thing you'd tell people who are ready for these new labels and want to start trusting their senses more?
I'd say be curious and don't be afraid. Ask questions, try things out, and trust yourself.
I like that. Be curious and don't be afraid. That's good advice for anything, really.
And remember, this is going to take time.
Yeah.
You'll learn as you go, make changes, and figure out what works for you.
This has been awesome. We've learned a lot about labels and food and how it all works.
It's been a great discussion.
We've given everyone a lot to think about.
For sure. And I hope everyone listening is thinking about how they buy food and wants to be part of making things better.
So that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we talked about California getting rid of sell-by dates. It's a wild story with a lot going on. We'll see what happens. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and like you said, trust your gut, both about what you eat and the choices you make.
Well said. See you next time.